Welcome to YouTube channel of Pune National HRD Network. I'm Neena Kamal here with the new episode of PeoplePoint. Today's our guest, Mr. Vaibhav Kelkar, brings with him close to 2 decades of rich HR experience in areas like HR consulting, HR business partnering. He has been working with large IT product and services organizations like Oracle Financials, Oracle, Tech Mahindra, Infosys, and now Epam Systems. He's currently working as the function head and people partner with Epam Systems. Vaibhav is known to be a process driven leader who has deep customer orientation, and he is very passionate about building HRBP models which create great employee experiences while delivering business value. Vaibhav is a trekker, he's a singer, he's a sports person, and he also manages to do cooking and gardening in his spare time. Today, we will be talking about HR analytics with Vaibhav, and I'm super excited about this episode because it's a new topic. Vaibhav, thank you so much for joining us. Very, very warm welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Nina, for having me here and wishing you and the entire team a very happy, healthy, and prosperous new year.
Happy 2023. Great, great start. Fantastic. So, Vaibhav, let me start by asking you the basics. What is HR data? What is HR analytics? How do you source this data? And how is this normally used?
I think it's always good to start with basics, and I'm glad that you asked that question. So, any data pertaining to people, talent in the organization is called as HR data. And this data is extremely rich because organizations will tend to have data around gender, role, experiences, the kind of education background that people come from, the competencies, skills, contributions of people, performance. I think there is a whole lot of data right from pre-onboarding to onboarding to the entire employee life cycle. And I think it becomes extremely crucial for organizations to rightly use that data. And using that data through analyzers, through tools, through techniques is called as HR analytics, if I can say. And I think it becomes even more critical when organizations with about 5,000 size, 10,000 size, 50,000 size, 100,000 size of people generate generate humongous HR data. And I think that becomes truly important for organizations to study that data and derive some meaningful actionables from those insights. And this entire journey, this entire process is called as HR analytics again. So I think it is one of the very upcoming field in the field of HR. If you talk to any HR leaders today and talk to them that, okay, what is the 5 to 10 years skill that is relevant for HR professionals, I think they would talk a lot about data science, HR analytics, and the use of it. The growing need of this entire profession is becoming even more stronger in the coming times. So I think all in all, I think that's what I would respond to when it comes to data, HR data, the insights that we can cull out of it.
Fantastic. So, I feel so old when I listen to someone like you talking about this because I started my HR career when we used to have physical folders for every employee, and whether to maintain these folders at the branch level or whether to maintain them at head office level, that was the conversation in my career I've had. And so let me just ask you this. Can you give me a couple of examples where such analytics are used in today's HR practices by HR professionals? There's something like, for example, retention or creating employee experience. How are you using it right now?
A very important question in today's context, and especially after the pandemic has hit us. I think the expectations both from employers and employees have become very, very important. So look at it more from an employee's perspective. Today you have, at any given point in time, you have three generations working in the same organization. You have baby boomers, you have millennials, you also have the Gen Z who is working in the same workforce. And each of these generations have different expectations from employers, from work, from their motivations. What do they want to achieve in their career? How do they look at work is very different, right? Now, when you have this rich insights coming in from your data, you could actually make personalized plans for your teams. So,
Okay.
for instance, global workforce, if you look at it, 50% of them are minimum millennials today, right? And about 40% of them could come from maybe baby boomers, and maybe about 10%, 10 to 15% come from Gen Z. When you look at these generations and their priorities, organizations can actually create customized plans for each generation. So, for instance, if you're looking at employee experiences and you're creating a benefits plan for your employees, uh, the generations, their age, their family structures could be very different for each generation. And for each of these, can you create a customized plans based on what data insights are you generating from your systems, your HR data house? This is something which is becoming even more pertinent for organizations to look at. So, for instance, if you are creating a benefits plan, you could actually make it personalized for your people so that they can choose what they would want to choose for their insurance and health benefits.
But
Similarly, for go ahead, please.
sorry. So, but wasn't this being done for a while now? So I remember because in my earlier organizations, uh, we have had a situation where we used to call it life phase. So every life phase of a person has a different motivation. So
Yeah,
you give 0% loan scheme, it would be valuable for somebody who is already married or has young kids or has aging parents. For them, for quick expenses, when you create 0% loan scheme, it is to be very relevant to them. But when
yeah,
you give the same benefit to youngsters who are, I mean, not yet thinking about any of these commitments, for them it would not be that exciting. They would rather want something like extra holiday where they can do some
yeah,
backpacking or sabbaticals for that matter, which used to be very relevant at one point of time.
yeah, yeah.
So what are we doing differently using this analytics? It's my question.
I'm glad that your organizations actually identified this much earlier. But today, when you look at large scale organizations which have 10,000 people, 50,000 people, a lakh set of people, it becomes even more complex for them to bring in so many diversities within their own plans. Because the moment you have those many plans, it becomes difficult. Now, with the help of analytics, you can pre identify the need which wasn't there in the past. Now, pre-identifying need could actually mean that you can connect the dots right from hiring process to the exit process and understand the emotions of people, connect the dots with the employee satisfaction surveys that you have gathered, connect the dots with the onboarding surveys that you've gathered for people. And depending on what comes out as the majority view, you could actually use data and analytics to create right strategies. So I would say that the personalized actions, you know, uh, after the strategy is created is something which is going to be extremely value add for any HR or people organization, and that's where the use of data analytics can become extremely important. Now, coming to the next part, which is mostly around the retention, since you asked me. Now, using these data analytics patterns, you can actually create predictive analytics. Now, how predictive analytics can actually work? Well, because you could actually study the pattern of your past exits, the kind of reasons that people were leaving you for, the kind of background that they came from. You can study all of that. You can put it into a machine learning and AI based engine to understand that, okay, if that has been the pattern of my exit so far or attrition so far, what is the likeliness for me to have more such attrition in the future? So when you know this beforehand, you can actually plan your interventions in advance. And today's HR analytics can give you that power where you can get to the game before beforehand itself. You can actually tweak your plans before it happens, right? So I would say that when organizations have these insights that, what, for instance, why are my new joiners leaving me earlier than those set of people who have spent significant amount of time, which means that I have some issue with my onboarding and assimilation program, right?
Yes.
Similarly, it could so happen that my employee satisfaction level for a certain band of employee is not that great. Then it's an analytics that can tell me that, what, you got to look at this band more from their career path perspective, from their career development perspective, and can organizations create a very different and customized career development programs or people development program for that group, is something that analytics can actually help us do that actually. And this whole personalized experience creation can be possible through a very powerful HR analytics, is what I would say.
Fantastic. And if you link it with something like employer branding, I
Yeah,
think it would be a very good database
absolutely,
for that.
absolutely, absolutely.
So tell me something. Are we here talking about replacing the traditional HR, or are we going to create some balance here? Because I mean, we don't want our jobs to be replaced with some AI or some, like
Fascinating question.
yeah.
Fascinating question. And in my honest view, Nina, I think data was there, data is there, and data will always be there. So I think it is imperative for organizations to look at as to how can they use that data. Now, using data does not mean that we will replace the traditional value of HR. The value will rather increase because you can be prepared better when you have data and insights. You can have more powerful conversations with your leaders, managers, employees to enable them better. Because assume two examples where organizations have got rich data. Organization A uses it to its benefits to understand the data and insights extremely powerfully, versus organization B, which chooses to ignore it.
Yeah.
And I told you about the human capital and the kind of data that it generates for thousands and lakhs of employees. How do you create that meaningful insight to derive and create your HR strategy? So organizations do not have choice today to have an inner HR analytics. I would say it is highly imperative for organizations to use it so that they can actually be in the game. And it is a game changer for organizations in our own industry. I come from IT industry background, and in this set of sector, human capital is the most important capital. If you lose talent, you lose your billing and revenues and whatnot, right? You lose your credibility and trust with your customer. So it has a direct linkage with the kind of HR analytics that you bring in, the kind of HR strategy that you create, and the kind of actions that derive. Now, good question, because the next step is the HR action. So once you have decided and derived that these are your hotspots, these are your critical set of employees that you got to look at, I think the role of HR and the line managers and the leaders of the organization then starts, because now you know the prioritization. Now you have, let's say, 50,000 employees, out of which data set has given to you that, okay, these are your top 3,000 employees for whom you got to focus more, else you will lose it. Else you will lose them. I can prioritize my action for those 3,000 people over the rest 47,000 people, right? And I think that is the beauty of the HR analytics, that it can help prioritize focused actions on certain groups that need attention, number one. Number two is that it can help balance the organization's need and employees' need. It can also help you create personalized action plans for your employees. It can help you track as to what kind of plans are you putting for your people, and then understand that, whether the employee satisfaction is going up or still going down, even after deploying those action plans. So I think in a summary, I would say that HR analytics can give you hotspots, critical spots, but it's the HR team, it's the people organization, it's the line manager and the business function who can create meaningful insights and action items to achieve the desired business results, I would say.
Fantastic. I'm actually quite, surprised with your excitement, even though I'm personally quite skeptical about any kind of analytics per se. I don't want to get stuck with some, like customer behavior survey or employee behavior survey. But having
I
said that,
think that brings me to a very important point, right? So in one of my organizations, we studied a correlation between employee satisfaction survey and the customer satisfaction survey. And
fantastic.
if you look at one of the, I cannot name the organization right now, but one of the CEOs said that people comes first,
Yes,
then the customer, right?
yes,
And if you link that, you will find that the organizations which have larger connection to the employees tend to also have better customer satisfaction scores.
absolutely.
So it has a very direct connection to the analytics again.
Okay. So I share your excitement because for me, in my head, HR analytics is a brilliant way to actually make your organization truly diverse and really build inclusion. Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have worked with a couple of multinational large organizations in my career. Mainly their headquarters would be in the US, and the decision makers sometimes would be sitting in Asia Pac or
Mhm.
European center.
Yeah,
And most of the times, when they create a policy in the US in those days, early 2000s, when you try and tell them that this is not very India specific policy and we need to tweak it, we as HR people, we had to go through a lot of those conversations and create a case study for that. And like, so in my mind, I'm seeing a huge potential of using HR analytics, which will make these multinational, multi-locational organizations to actually create policies which are more local. And then
yeah.
probably that is what excites me the most, honestly.
Absolutely. And I think I can correlate with this, right? Like, for instance, the wage inflation in India versus outside countries, the attrition rate within India versus outside countries are
Brilliant.
far different. So then it and the industry, the landscape, the sector in which you operate is far different from the rest of the country. So
Absolutely.
it is then becoming very important for people or leaders sitting outside of India to look at that data and make critical judgments about the country based on the data and insights. I'm not saying that they can simply take decisions just based on the data. They will have to still talk to the local leaders out here, but when they have data and insights, they can make meaningful insights. For instance, in our own industry, if NASSCOM says that our range of attrition is close to about 24 to 26%, and if your organization is landing somewhere around 22, 23%, as compared to the same organization having an attrition rate of just 5 to 6% in the country, you can say that I'm still fairly doing well in the context of India as a country, right? And I think that's the beauty of HR analytics again.
Brilliant, brilliant point, Vaibhav. Excellent. I'm actually quite intrigued after our talk.
Sure.
So the next segment of our today's conversation is called rapid musings, and these
Wow.
are some of these kind of quick rapid questions, and we
Yeah.
want quick answers. Are you ready for this?
Okay, let me attempt.
Okay, the first question: what is your favorite people related book?
Wow. I think I'm slightly embarrassed with this question because I don't normally follow a lot of books, but I still remember a book after joining the current organization. My boss happened to ask me to read this book, and this is a brilliant book called An Ideal Team Player,
Okay,
which is very simple to follow and something that has stuck with me for a long time. Very, very effective book. A book called Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni.
fantastic. Next question: who's your professional role model?
Wow, it's a nice question. It takes me back to my Tech Mahindra days. So I had a wonderful boss called Elizabeth Zakaria.
Okay.
and every day used to be a learning day for me. So she's so impeccable HR professional that she was very humble yet very grounded, and very assertive as well, and a wonderful boss, a wonderful guide, and a wonderful coach. So any given point in time, she is my role model, I would say.
Great, great. Okay, now we have some critical questions here. What is
Mhm.
one common mistake done by HR people most of the times? Very commonly.
Sure. Well, I think when HR teams tend to take all people matters on their head, I think that's one of our common mistakes. We tend to be so passionate about people's subjects that we feel that we own it.
Okay.
But our role is more of a facilitator, enabler, and a coach to organizational managers and leaders. So we should rather partner and collaborate with them than understand that, this is my problem and I got to fix it. You cannot ever fix it until you collaborate and partner with them. So I would say that just owning everything around people's space is not your problem. You got to resolve it along with the organizational ecosystem.
So you're one of the stakeholders. You're not the only stakeholder.
Yeah, yeah.
Great one. And next question is, what is most commonly analyzed HR data point?
I think the industry that I come from and the past talk that we have done so far is all about talent, attrition, retention. So I think attrition and retention becomes super important for our industry.
Fantastic. Okay, final question. What is your people mantra?
Well, in any profession, I think you cannot always have 100% clarity. And it is becoming very imperative for HR professionals to deal with ambiguity. So I would say that take baby steps, take small steps, make sure that you learn fast, fail fast, adapt fast, and take corrective approaches to reach your final destination. That's one. Second is that always take people along with you.
People.
Don't criticize too much, right? Just take people along, praise them when they're working well, and take deep efforts to build the right teams and relationships at work. I think that is very important for any leaders to make a highly conducive environment for their teams. So that is what I would say um, as my people mantra.
Fantastic. Excellent. So it was really wonderful to discuss HR analytics with someone like you, Vaibhav. Thank you so much for the time you gave us and any parting words you have for us.
Well, thank you so much, Neena, for this amazing opportunity. And I think I would say it's a brilliant series that you conduct. So I wish you, People Point series, and the entire NHRD Pune chapter a very best in 2023. Looking forward to more such opportunities. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. So that's it. It was wonderful to talk to you, Vaibhav. And thank you so much to our audience for listening and supporting us through for every episode. Please keep and commenting on our episodes, and please share in your circle if you have any suggestions, any ideas. Please just feel free to drop a message. Thank you.